I want to welcome everyone to the Joint Veterans Endorsements for Veterans in Politics International, Nevada Democrat Veterans and Military Families Caucus, Nevada Veterans Association, and Armed Forces Chamber PAC. Sorry, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold. I want to, first off, just thank the candidates for coming. And then I also want to give a special thanks to our sponsors, Stephanie Phillips, U.S. Senate candidate, Ava Bravo, Las Vegas Justice of the Peace Department 2 candidate, and Carl Contiera, Clark County School Board trustee candidate. So this is kind of how the process is going to work. First off, the panel members are going to introduce themselves with just a brief bio. We'll just say who we are and which organizations we represent. And then we'll turn it over to both of you gentlemen, and thank you very much for coming. Please just give us a 30-second introduction of who you are, what race you're running for, and why you are seeking our endorsements. Okay? Timekeeping, we're going to kind of play that by ear. I'm not going to cut you off immediately if you're going way over time. Basically, you'll be given 45 seconds to answer a question. At 30 seconds, we'll ask you to wrap it up. At 45 seconds, then that should be it. And then at the very end, each one of you will get a minute to conclude, give your point of contact, why people should get involved in your campaign, and also just basically why you're running for what you're running for and whatever you want to say. So at this time, Jim Jonas. I'm Director of Veterans and Politics International, and now I'm going to turn it over to other panel members so they can introduce themselves.
Sorry I'm late. Ken Wagner. I just left the VA, so Gulf War veteran, disabled combat veteran.
Andre Haynes, Armed Forces Chamber PAC. Thank you for being here.
Mikey Kelly, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Okay, Kelly, if you want to give your introduction, please.
I am Kelly Quinn. I'm running for Assembly District 5, which is the west side of the valley from about Alta down to Russell, roughly Rainbow up to Hualapai. I lived in Nevada for 36 years, lived in the district for 26 years, currently a correctional sergeant out at High Desert State Prison with the Nevada Department of Corrections, and about 14 years EMS experience before that. It's taken me throughout the entire state in emergency response capabilities and for the state as a regulator as well. So why I choose to run this cycle, I'll go back to last cycle first. It was more the government overreach and the taking of our freedoms during COVID. This cycle, it switched more towards the education side of it. What's happening in education, especially the last session, is disgusting in my opinion, in some of them. So we need to try to repeal some of the stuff that's been happening and improve our education system. That's my first priority.
My name is Alan Bigelow. I am a lifetime resident of Las Vegas, a veteran of 24 years. I spent 4 years as a deputy sheriff and the past 20 as a firefighter. I've spent probably almost 20 years working inside of the political system to make changes here in Clark County and Nye County. In Nye County, I was able to establish a Veterans Memorial Cemetery, and we made it affordable for the veterans there. It was about $500 or so to bury a veteran along with their spouse. There was nothing there other than what's out in Boulder City now, or up north, so now we have an alternative for some of the people in Nye County so they don't have to travel as far. I've spent a great deal of time working with other campaigns, and at the onset of this one, my family was complaining about the erosion of parental rights and the education system, as well as public safety and the inequalities therein. So I ended up having to make a tough decision whether I was going to run or I support another campaign. So we decided to run basically simply for the sake of my grandchildren, because my children are working and supporting their family, and they don't have time to do it, and I do have time to do it now. So that's it.
Well, thank you very much to both of you. Mikey Kelly, if you want to ask the first question.
Great, guys. Thank you for coming. I'll kind of ask kind of the same way I've been asking. So, as you might know, the Nevada Department of Veterans Services has had some serious problems. They're currently under investigation by the Nevada State Police over misconduct. There have been accusations of discrimination, racial and sexual discrimination against employees, overall incompetence. The home up north was, when it was opened in 2018, the original plan was it would be privatized temporarily because they couldn't staff it in time, with a transition to state employees. That didn't happen, and it's been privatized, and they've had 32 citations from the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, and they're currently they have one of the worst audits in state history. My question to both of you is, how are you going to, first of all, hold NDVS accountable? Number one, well, two questions. How are you going to hold NDVS and, quite frankly, the executive branch accountable? And what do you see as pressing for the veterans community?
So first of all, the audits that legislature can do, NRS 218 gives legislature the authority to audit where any of that state money goes. And I think the legislative subcommittees need to hold all the agencies accountable. There's a lot of corruption and mismanagement in all the departments across the board. And I currently work in Department of Corrections, and I would expect all of them to audit and determine where that money is going.
Hold on. I'm going to give you.
Stand by.
I'm going to give you. Here, restart. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to be very blunt. Sorry. Let me put this bluntly. There was racial and sexual discrimination at NDVS. There's a problem. There is a clear, serious problem, and maybe I should put it more bluntly. Directly, when you have and those folks complained and they got nowhere. What are you going to do to ensure that, number one, there's no discrimination in the department, and that NDVS is held accountable, and holding the executive branch accountable for, quite frankly, that and a lot of other things. So that's that I probably should have put it better that way. So
No, again, the same thing. Legislature has the authority to provide oversight to the state agencies, and they need to do that. Some of them haven't had an interest in doing so for some time. So we need to kind of force that issue. As far as the pressing issues, what I see, and especially coming from the EMS background, is mental health is huge. Patient care with the VA and the veterans is huge, and we need to support all of that. There's several of the veteran agencies as well, or grants that are out there that need to be expanded on. Last session got a lot of support for the dentistry program for the veterans, and we need to continue that. But mental health, healthcare, and housing are probably the top issues that I see with veterans on how I can help improve that from legislature.
There's no room in any operation in any business or any state agency for abuse of anything, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's inequality, anything like that. In the state programs, the AG has the authority to persecute it and make sure that the law is followed. Unfortunately, it seems like this one is one that slipped through, and I think we need to put a lot of pressure on the AG to make sure that things are done according to law, because it's not happening in this case. Our veterans, they continue to get subpar care, which is unfortunate, and that goes back into the way we award contracts to doctors and healthcare providers. And so we need to make sure that these people are vetted properly, and then we don't get into those situations where you have discrimination, you have sexual advances that are inappropriate, anything like that, because it's just flat against the law.
Thank you. Thanks. A friend of mine's a POW. He had no ID. We took him down to get ID. Other friend of mine is, who's our gardener, who is here legally, went to get his reissued his ID because it doesn't matter. This is motor voter. I brought one for both of you. Kind of was nerve-wracking when we went down there. I don't know if are you guys familiar with motor voter? It allows anyone with an ID card to sign up to vote, which kind of bothered me. I'm a disabled veteran. The guy who I was with didn't have an ID, and they allowed him to sign up to vote and get an ID card. And they were allowing people that had no ID cards that didn't speak English to sign up to vote. I have no problem with people to sign up to vote, like my friend who was a POW, who were just trying to get, taken care of. He only served, I think he was in a POW for 18 months. But I don't think people should be able to sign up to vote who are just now into the country. I want to know your stance on non-citizens voting. We're signing an affidavit and sending it to the governor saying that what we saw. My friend who's here legally, Mike Gardner, I had a stroke and I have cancer, so I can't do my yards anymore. But I just want to know your opinion on allowing illegal aliens to vote, and if you guys get in there, if you'll do something about people, non-citizens, able to vote.
I spent 24 years defending our nation and our right to vote. I took the time out of my life so that we could protect our right to vote. If somebody's here illegally, they don't have a right to vote. They don't have a right to benefits. They just showed up and they want to get something for free because they heard about it. That's wrong. I support documentation. I support people being here legally. If they're here illegally, they don't have the right to vote, no.
So only U.S. citizens?
U.S. citizens or U.S. naturalized citizens, of course.
Totally agree. Same thing. And DMV does issue IDs or driver's license to pretty much anybody that walks through the door. And with that, they can turn around and register to vote. And that's what this is here. And I think that is totally wrong, to slap in the face to everybody who fought for the right to vote. There's a petition going right now for voter ID to be required. And I'm 100% in support of that. Last cycle, when you're out door knocking and you've got 12 registered voters in a one-bedroom condo, there's a problem with that because 10 of those don't live there anymore. And that's the problem we have in this state is the voter rolls aren't being cleaned up as people move. And we're in such a transient state anyway that the worst case so far in this Pigpen project is 240 registered voters in one house. There's a problem with the voter rolls.
All right. Well, my question is in regards to audits. So right now, currently in the state of Nevada, and I'm pretty sure this is the same in every state, they only do internal audits. And when they do the internal audits, they're only by behest of the executive branch. Would you two propose a BDR draft that states that the legislative branch can actually initiate a fraternal audit, not an internal audit? Because the internal audit just gives suggestions to the different state agencies, like, oh, you might be able to be a little more efficient here or there, but none of it is legally binding. Would either of you two gentlemen be willing to put forth a BDR draft in order to get that at least executed? And if not executed, at least get enough of your peers once elected to get it through committee, because we know that if it doesn't get through committee, it's not even going to hit the legislative floor. Would either one of you two be willing to do that? And not just propose it, but have a way to push it through.
In the last session, they actually started a audit process on the school districts. There's two kinds of audits that they can do.
Let me. I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me clarify, Alan. This is for both of you again. Not what was proposed, because obviously what has been previously proposed has not been done. Specifically, and we'll give you a little bit more time because I know this is a complicated question, but specifically, propose it, get people on board, and get it pushed through.
I've consistently supported audits in the system. They show leaks and areas that we bleed out in. The problem with the audits that they're doing currently is they're only financially based. They need to be performance based so that they come up with real solutions in the future, so that if somebody's buying, for example, safety shoes that cost $300 from one vendor, but I can go buy them from Walmart for $100, let's give them a voucher and save that $200 and use it somewhere else. Those are the kind of audits we need to be looking at. The continuing of just a external audit continues to be the problem because they look for certain things and they can be manipulated in ways that benefit the people that request the audit. If we use a performance-based audit program, then you're going to see actually what's going on, because it highlights problems as well as solutions, and it provides a direction to go to that's going to save money and provide better results in the future.
Kelly, sorry.
So, yes, I would support that very much so. And number one, we can do forensic audits right now. And that's what we need to do, is forensic audits. And again, going back to the previous question, looking at all the agencies. Now, again, 218E, as an echo, gives the legislature the authority to do those audits. Now, whether they're doing them or not, they're not doing them. So those need to be conducted. And we've got a couple of the unions right now that are looking at doing audits on the state budget and finding where money is being hidden or misappropriated, et cetera. And I'm totally in support of those audits as well, while working with the unions.
So the current incumbent in Assembly District 5 has been pretty active in the veterans community since she's been in office. My question to both of you is, what is your participation in the veterans community? What have you what have you done? What are you doing so to show them that you're involved, that you're engaged?
Well, like I mentioned a little bit ago, one of the things that I did was to establish policy out in Nye County to create a new veterans cemetery there. When we did that, we brought in a group of veterans specifically. It was 12 of us. We sat down and finally came up with a draft. Once the draft was written, I presented it to the county commissioners, and the county commissioners adopted it as policy and current law. We made it affordable for the veterans to be either interned in a columbarium with their ashes, or they could be buried in a plot. It matches the federal requirements, and it allows for the veterans that live out there, because specifically in Pahrump, there's about a 65% population of veterans. So they needed a little bit of help instead of driving up north or going out to Boulder City. We were fortunate to get that done, and we actually did it in a partnership with the town, and the project is currently self-funding. Other situations, of course, being in the military, I've taken time to work with a couple of retirees and found out that there's a advocate to help people get their retirement, and I have that number available for people.
So myself, like I said, I've worked probably 12 of the last 15 legislative sessions in Nevada. A few of them I backed away from politics altogether. But in some capacity on certain bills, I've worked probably 12 sessions of the last 15 for the 30 years. And much of that was healthcare related. Much of that also affects the veterans. So EMS, fire, and I was a regulator with the health division. Much of that involved mental health as well. And we've advocated for mental health pretty much my entire time working in the legislature. And I know that's very much an issue with veterans as well, the mental health and expanding on that. At one point, we had 68 mental health beds in the state of Nevada. Now it's up to just shy of 400. I believe it's 379 or something like that, but it's just shy of 400 mental health beds. Those need to be expanded. There's a greater need for mental health throughout the entire state.
Okay, this is another loaded question, but one of the things that, and I'm kind of picking on myself on this one, when every time you go in front of one of these panels, what BDR draft are you gonna propose, vice versa, right? So I think we have too many laws. Okay, so what I would like to see, and this is kind of like, sorry to pick on Alan, but he's the firefighter, so and kind of like pouring gasoline on a fire. But what I would like to do is kind of burn that fire out a little bit. So one of the things that I've always thought would be a good idea is instead of promoting more bills or trying to push through more, why don't we do an audit on all the NRS statutes that aren't even relevant anymore, get rid of them, and then propose ones that will actually work. Now, if either one of you two gentlemen can pull that off, you'll be my best friend for life. So I'm going to start with you, Kelly. Kind of walk me through how exactly we could do that.
So doing the entire set of the NRSs, I think, would take years to do what you're proposing. The last session and the session before last, absolutely, there's some bills that need to be repealed, especially this last session. There were a ton of them that need to be repealed. Coming to the table with something new, which is really to repeal something, is NRS 201 is the obscenity laws for Nevada. Defines what it is, what it means to traffic, etc. There's an exclusion clause in there. It says schools, universities, libraries, and museums are exempt from the obscenity laws. So therefore, when you see these drag queen shows or pornography shows that they're doing in the libraries and schools, there's a reason they're in libraries and schools, because they're exempt from being arrested. If they were to do them in a building like this, they're subject to being arrested under the obscenity laws. So my number one proposal is to repeal that exclusion clause and make it accountable. There's plenty of other areas that allow for teaching anatomy, physiology, health, etc. And the second most important is the parental right bill. And I'm out of time.
We have a lot of laws, and like Kelly said, it'd take probably 3 or 4 sessions just to clear them up. But starting with a few, we have some in place that need to be cleared up. We do have in our Nevada Constitution, for example, a indentured servitude clause, and that needs to go away because we haven't had indentured servitude for several hundred years now. And those are just simple things right off the top that we can do in the next session. It's started, but it needs to be completed. There's a number of business laws and licensing issues that we need to address to make it easier for people to come to Nevada, because when we get businesses in Nevada, we don't raise our taxes. The businesses pay the extra taxes just to start and be here. And so let's make it happen. Let's get these things started. Let's do it in this next session. And let's make sure we make the old laws that are really dumb and stupid go away. But we're not going to do it in one session. It's going to take several.
This is going to sound petty, but I have friends that are, they have the handicap stickers, the disabled veterans plates for the airport and stuff. They drive to the airport and the readers don't read their things. There's no longer live people there. They have to sit there and they push the button and then nobody comes on for 10, 15 minutes. Even when they have the placards, is there anything that the legislature can do? I mean, is there a rule or a law or whatever? It's disabled veteran plates, and nobody comes online, and they still have to pay. I mean, there's got to be something we can do for these guys so that they can, because there's a law on the books saying that they can, that they're granted, they're in wheelchairs. There's nothing, I mean, I know it sounds petty. It's $5, $10, but to these guys, You know, they're literally living.
$5 or $10 in that kind of world is a week's worth of food sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
You know, and our veterans deserve every bit we can give them. The airport comes under some federal regulations, and we can push for additional things through our county because the county actually manages the airport, and it's part of the airport program and the super funds that go in there. And there are funds available. They're just not applying for them. And so I think if we were to push some pressure on the airport managers, and not just in Las Vegas, but in all of the municipal airports around the state, because some are small, some are big. You know, Reno's a lot smaller than Vegas. Henderson isn't Vegas, but they still have those same requirements and the same needs. And so when we can do that, if we push on them, and we push them a little bit harder, or we say, look, you know, you're the airport manager, you got the money available, why aren't you using it? And it holds their accountability, and it goes back into the auditing again. Why aren't they doing it? So if we can put the pressure on them, I think we can get them to do it. They just look at the bottom line and say, you know what, we don't want to spend the money.
I know, but can we put, they don't have any people, you know, live humans at the, so.
They need to make a few more people available, and that's where that money comes from. But there's different pots, I guess, to say that the money comes from. They just have to apply for the money. If they apply for the money, they'll have the money to pay for the people. The airport control groups.
So the county, the airports are controlled by the counties, and especially parking. And so the county commission is really where that lies, and the airport authority. So as a legislator, we've got very little control of what happens at the airport, specifically for the readers like that, like you're talking about. County commission and airport authority.
You can take your assemblyman with you too. He probably did.
Okay, Mike, you wanted to ask one last question because this will have to be a last question.
No, I was going to clarify. The airport is what they call an enterprise agency. So it's no money from the state. It is fee funded. It is completely funded by the airport itself. It does not take any money from the county. It does not take any money from the state. It gets federal. They get federal grants, but they don't take they're considered enterprise. The issue of parking has to do directly with the county commission. And if there's a problem, because I know people that work there, they do have ways of getting in there. So if there's a problem, we probably all need to push the commissioners, because I can tell you, they may not know what's going on. They probably don't.
All right. Well, okay. Thanks, Mike, for clarifying that, because I'm sure a lot of people don't understand that. At this time, I just want to, this will conclude our endorsement interview. But before we leave, I want to make sure that I thank our sponsors: Stephanie Phillips, U.S. Senate candidate; Ava Bravo, Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, Department 2 candidate; Carl Catarata. Thanks, Mike. Clark County School Board Trustee candidate. That will conclude our endorsement interview for Assembly District Number 5, and thank both of you gentlemen very much for taking your time today. And I also want to thank both of you for being willing to just run for public office, because it's a tough thing to do, and you both should be admired for that. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. I went in hyper mode there. So, Kelly, if you want, 1 minute to both of you. I cut you short.
Okay.
No. Well, because I talked too long, so they're cut down. I got to have my mic time, man.
Yeah.
All right, Kelly,
Okay,
go ahead, please.
I'm Kelly Quinn. I'm running for Assembly District 5. The website for more information is quinn4nv.com. It's QUINNFORNV.com. My phone number, email, all my contact information is there as well. And again, more about me. I have 36 years in Nevada, 26 years in the district, second time running. I've worked probably 12 of the last 15 sessions of legislature in some capacity, either as a citizen lobbyist or as a regulator, writing the laws and regulations and policy for much of the healthcare system throughout Nevada. Emergency response throughout Nevada, and currently a peace officer with the Department of Corrections, and soon to be legislative representative. Thank you.
And my name's Alan Bigelow. The website is votealanbigelow.com. I've been a lifetime resident of Las Vegas. I went to the east side of Vegas is where we started out. I went to El Dorado High School at one point, and For any long-term residents here, there was a restaurant called Sambo's on Eastern and, it's called Commercial Center and East Lake Mead. It's no longer there. It's been gone about 30 years. But that was my first job. We worked our way out of it and across town ended up living down in Paradise Valley. We have been here for 4 generations now. I've been a firefighter in Southern Nevada for the past 20 years and EMT for the past 24 years here. We have taken the time to invest 4 generations of my family here. We have spent endless hours with volunteerism in different organizations, as well as especially on the veteran side, and I have spent quite a bit of time doing that. I'm here to represent the people of Las Vegas, and the reason I am running is for my grandkids, because my kids right now are working hard and they can't do it, so they need somebody to be a scrapper, and I've been a scrapper my whole life.
Okay, well, now, thank you, Andre, for reminding me that the candidate should be able to give a closing statement. So at this time, that does conclude our endorsement interview for Nevada State Assembly District Number 5. Thank you both very much.